Swamp Rebellion, you heard me?
To the next level, then PreSonus is here for you. With PreSonus Sphere, you have access to PreSonus software, Sphere member exclusives, Studio One add-ons, Notion add-ons, sample and loop libraries, and more than you could even imagine. Some of our favorite plugins are the Analog Effects Collection, the Channel Strip Collection, and the Pro Console Shaper. Having a monthly or yearly subscription will give you access to PreSonus' award-winning DAW, Studio One Professional. So what are you waiting for? Join PreSonus Sphere today. PreSonus, wherever sound takes you.
Call me.
Where two minds and souls collide in unison to create the Dank Swamp Rebellion. A lot of people don't know how we started this shit, man.
A blue and yellow trek through the universe that has become one with the synonymity of podcasting in Louisiana.
And the world.
And it happened
and
all...
possibly the universe.
It all happened at this one place we've never disclosed this entire time.
So, for those of you that may have figured it out, Tyler and I actually met each other when we worked together at Best Buy.
Yeah, we did it. It's
in
out.
Houma.
It's out in the world.
We couldn't say that before because we worked for a company that doesn't let you say things like that on a podcast because you'll lose your job. But now I don't work for them anymore, and neither does Tyler. So now we can tell you the story of how the podcast, better known as before, do you remember what the name of the podcast was before Dank Swamp Rebellion?
Luckily, I went back and tuned into the 50th anniversary stuff.
Yep.
So the Dead Sea Scrotums was a real
idea
we were throwing at the walls.
That was one. And that actually was also became the name of our first theme song, our intro, which was pretty killer. But then it evolved into what it is now. And then we had some episodes that have never aired. We've never even put them out. It was some test episodes, but at that time we were called Dead Air by Proxy.
Which says absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing about everything.
Dead Air by Proxy means it's just fill words.
Yeah.
Filler
well, that's
words.
all we needed at that point. We needed a name to legitimize the reason why we were getting together in Phil's kitchen.
You might as well just have said the blank blanks.
Exactly.
Same premise.
The nobodies.
But we still use that email.
We do, which is killer. That's like our main email that we use for other stuff.
Yeah.
But the oil field in South Louisiana.
It was bussing at one point.
It was, and then 10 years ago it kind of flopped. And when I came back home, the oil field was already on the downward spiral. So I was actually. I let go of my job. I was working for a company in the oil field. I don't want to name this company because I'm actually still really good friends with the owner. It wasn't a big deal. I knew it was kind of coming because everybody else was getting let go across. You talk to people.
Yeah.
And
the writing's on the wall.
Yeah, it was a bad time in the economy. I mean, it still is, but it's been for a while. So at that time, I went work in a psych unit, and then I got hired on very shortly after by Best Buy in Houma, Louisiana.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That you actually went from the psych unit to Best Buy that quickly.
Well, when I walked in for my interview, I was wearing scrubs that day because I was actually on my lunch break, and I'd had enough of that, like real quick.
I would imagine.
I'd been in the medical field before. I never liked it before, but it's what was available. So I was only out of work for like 8 days, where some people were out of work for 11, 12, 13 months, right? Or longer. And I was fortunate.
2015?
Yeah, 2014, 2015 era. So it was odd because Best Buy normally doesn't hire from outside of Best Buy,
especially
an outside hire.
Management position.
In management, right? But they were desperate for someone with an operations background, which I had. So they hired me on there. I did a lot of good there. The first 2.5 years was amazing. So shortly after I became a manager there, Tyler and Blake Tozan from Ghost of the Coast both started working there as salesmen.
I think Blake started maybe a few months earlier than
Right.
me, and we both started as like part-time,
Yep.
and just we were really good at what we do, so we quickly got to full-time.
So let's backtrack this. So you had people that had been there quite a few years, and then we would have these meetings, and the two part-time guys, Blake Tozan broke a record for working the least amount of hours but making the most amount of sales.
His
and
metrics were insane.
his sales rate was 333%
Which is
month.
retarded.
For someone who worked 15 hours a week while in school.
Right.
Tyler was in the 200 percentile also. So Tozan went into medical in college, so he went work at the hospital. Naturally, that's the natural progression of things. You're going to go and do what you're
You went to school for.
supposed to be doing. right?
Hopefully. Yeah.
So, especially something like that. You moved up into a management position with Best Buy very quickly.
Within like a year.
Right.
Which is pretty crazy now that I look at it.
Now, the problem with that is, like I said, the first 2.5 years with Best Buy, I was there 5 years. 2.5 years was amazing. Our CEO, Hubert Joly, revolutionized the retail industry, right?
The culture of which the place of work was at a peak I've never seen.
Right.
It was amazing. It was so cool to be able to be proud of where you worked.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, not just that. It was also morale was a huge thing
It
for
was-
him. He wanted you to come to work and be happy. His motto was have fun while being the best.
And they paid you for that.
And they paid you for that.
That's why it worked.
I also never worked for a company that implored their line levels to have their cell phones out constantly. Show off what your new phone that you just got from Best Buy can do.
That's what sells, man.
So they were very tech-oriented, very people-oriented. You were not just a number under Hubert's regime. Now, that being said, they also had bonus schedules for these kids. They had all these other things. Like any other thing in the world, at the top, there's always greedy people. So the higher-ups, the corporate regime of Best Buy, decided that Hubert would now only become a board member, and they would become more hip and woke to the times. So they hire this woman, Corey Berry, who has all this scandalous stuff with her and has pretty much single-handedly run the company into the ground. Reason why I'm leaving.
Within the last 2.5 years.
Within 2.5 years. So the last 2.5 years there, I was miserable. Tyler got... He had enough way before I did.
Yeah. I was in that management position for about a year and something.
Yeah.
And it was dude, you remember how hard it was for me.
You kind of lost your mind a little bit, but it was when COVID hit and we were curbside only, and only management had to work curbside
It burned
with
me
the
up.
warehouse. It was just too much, and we were all under this intense mental strain. Our GM was forced to go work at another store. He was gone for 8 months. Shout out to Bruce Learett, our homie, who was our assistant store manager, who kept it all together. Like, I'm still really good friends with him.
No shit.
He runs another store now. That guy's amazing. Our GM, Wayne Marcel, he hired us. Awesome cat. I can honestly say the best general manager I ever worked for. This guy was not a micromanager. He inspired me to inspire. And that was one thing that I wasn't used to. I wasn't used to the people aspect of Best Buy because I came from the oil field, bunch of roughnecks talking BS, right?
Right.
But it changed the way I look at things and the way I look at people.
I took that with me.
Absolutely.
You know, that we feel some type of way about what it is now, but the things that were good stuck. And
I'm glad the things that were good were in the beginning, though.
Me too.
Because if it had been toward the end, I think we'd have been burnt out already.
And there's a certain amount of camaraderie that goes on whenever things are that low, you know, that it helps build that morale that we're all in this together type deal.
Right.
But that could only go so far until it becomes ridiculous. And like, when you feel like your voice could be heard and it's actually impactful, and in those situations, you could deal with it a lot better, you know?
Absolutely.
Dude, there was a point where our store had the highest up corporate level managers come visit our store because we were killing it.
Well, what happened was they used to have this thing, which they still do. It's called Achievers, and it's only for the top ranked stores in the country.
I think that's what killed it for me.
Yeah. So when corporate came, it was like the rat race. I was told that the building needed to be fresh painted, so I stayed all night with my warehouse. Shout out to Warehouse 943. I still love you guys. Y'all the best team I ever had. Amazing team. But we did all that. We got it all together. And then we kind of got screwed out of that because of COVID. And the way they did it, they went about it wrong. But do you remember the thing that first started the downfall? Do you remember what it was? And do you remember that we had talked about it a year before that on the show?
Was it getting appliances?
As horrible as that was.
Because I think that helped a lot.
No, that was not it. It's when they boosted the line level's wages to $15 an hour.
Yeah.
I told them before it happened, we had been talking about this. If you go to $15 an hour for people who are not skilled laborers, what's going to happen to the economy? So across the board, I told my team, I pulled them together because I knew this was coming, and I don't like to spring stuff on them. So I told them, I said, $15 an hour is coming, but you full-timers will become part-time, and you part-timers will become no-time. And when that $15 an hour came during COVID, you know what happened? We were called, and we were sat there and asked to grade our employees out of 100 questions. And people that were in a lower percentile, they got a severance package, and they were gone. 77,000 employees lost their jobs because of a $15 an hour pay wage for people that really, most of them did not deserve it. And the equality part of it that really burned me out at the end of the day was this, is that we used to get a bonus schedule when you were there with me, and our bonus schedule was based on what our store did, and our employees were able to get a piece of that. So when they made $12 an hour, that was okay because they may be getting a bonus check for their hard work
every quarter.
But everybody gets the same bonus for equality. So here I was number 33 in the nation of 1,100 stores. I gave Best Buy a negative 1.1 PI my first year there with 3% growth year over year. And at the end of the day, the guy up the road at the veteran store who sucks and makes twice as much money as me gets the same bonus. How is that even remotely fair?
It's Best Buy was a petri dish for where the economy is going now. So they are ahead of their time.
Right.
I give them that. When they made that shift to the equality change of rates, we smelled this coming over a year before it even happened.
Right.
Because you could see these little shifts when you're in the day-to-day grind in it, and you actually have to go into systems and manage and look at these numbers, and that's your job to know these numbers. You know when something seems a little off.
Right. They started cutting hours. They started cutting management. I left Best Buy.
Merging positions.
Learning
all the other leadership
redirection.
skills. Yeah. All these hot words that don't enforce but are embedded with these ideals.
Another thing that really got me upset was the political stand to the left that Best Buy and Corey Berry, the CEO, took.
They made that such a huge pillar to stand on,
correct.
Too.
So when George Floyd was killed, they sent out a thing saying to everybody, they sent out an email, and it said, this was a tragedy, and we know this incites rage in a lot of people, so let's try not to talk about it at work. It's a very sensitive subject. There's two very definitive sides of way people feel about this.
Not 2 weeks later.
Another one talking about the memorial of George Floyd. So you want us to not talk about it. You want us to forget about it. Then you send out another mass email about it again.
Yeah.
A year to the date, a memorial email was sent out again. And you know what it started? The whole process over. And that's what we've been fighting from day one, is that BS to where they pee in your face, but they call it rain. And it's not just the government, it's the corporate entities of our nation and of the world that are doing this to us over and over again, because they know that the general public really isn't paying attention.
That or they'll just keep their mouth wide open.
Exactly. Stop guzzling it in, people. There comes a point to where you have to know your worth. My job now already has benefited me in tremendous ways that Best Buy never could again. So when I tried to quit when was it? It was, I was supposed to work Black Friday. I told my boss, I said, I'm not doing it this year. Because our store was demolished from Ida, so they wanted us to go work in the city. Yeah. I said, I'm not doing it. I'm going to Vegas with my wife.
I think that's when I officially left as well.
Yeah, because they told you were going to go, and you were like, nah, I'm not.
Dude, I'm still fixing my house to live in it.
Yeah.
I'm not even in my house right now.
And you were like staying all the way down to Bayou too. So like the drive and the same thing with me. Like at that point we were in the bus in Dulac and they were like, we want you to go to the city. I'm like, I'm not going to the city.
Ain't happening, man.
And so I went and I put in my 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
And my GM says, I'm not going to accept your notice. And I said, this is like, you can't do that. And he's like, no, I like, give me some time. I'll give you the time off, but I'm not taking your notice. And then as of about a month ago, I went in and I gave him my notice, and then I just found out recently that he put in his notice.
Literally like a week or so later.
Yeah. So, thank you, Hubert Jolie, for the first 2.5 years at Best Buy. It was amazing. Dude, thank you for the culture that you built. And we were making money, and our bonuses were awesome, and it was a very good time. And
everything needed to be that way for it to go that way, too. And I think there's a reason for that, too, that we got in at the same time where we could be successful and be proud of where we worked. And us going in with that mind frame to start this podcast in early 2020, in January 2020, is how we were able to jive and do it. Because think about it, if we would have tried to start the show while under the reign of Old Girl.
Absolutely. It'd be totally different.
It would be a totally different show, if even at all.
Right.
And being around...
It just so happened that one night, we had that old Samsung area in the middle of the store. It was like the Samsung mobile desk.
Yeah.
And I just so happened to see Tyler, and him and I kind of avoided each other for the most part. If we saw each other, we just went separate ways. We had two different management styles. We were like, you know what?
And then that was the thing. It was like, man, I know I'm not going to like this cat. He's loud. He's full of energy. I am not those things.
He is very reclusive. And the reason why I even approached him is because my friend Blake Tozan was like, bro, like, if you want to do anything with anything, music or audio or anything, you got to get with Tyler because he's one of the best in the area. So I was like, all right. So one night, being me,
he was coming in hot.
A couple days, because a couple days before that,
I remember this shit.
My wife and I were on our way to the Million Bell Casino, and I was ranting about some BS, and she looks over and she says, you should have a podcast. I'd listen to that. You know a lot of things about a lot of things. And I said, no, I actually know a little bit about a lot of things. I don't know. I wish I knew everything about one thing and not just a little bit about everything.
Jack of all trades.
She goes, what would it take? And I said, well, I'd have to talk to this cat at work that really doesn't care for me. Beep. So I came in hot and I said, Tyler, and before, I'd asked Tyler months and months and months before, because really by trade we were musicians, right?
Yeah.
So
we knew of each other,
right? But just
passingly,
didn't know each other. Right. Just like Kyle Erosh, like I've known who that guy is forever. I just never met him until recently. So, I go up to him and I say, Tyler, you want to start a band? And he says, yeah, sure, because he's at this time like me, just wanting to see what's up, play with anybody. And I told him, I said, dude, I'm telling you right now, if you just give me an hour and let me sing for you, and I promise you, you don't have to love it or hate it, but it's something that you've never heard before. And he gave me that. And then he actually said when it was done that was the case, right?
Yeah.
So then
Still to this day.
that kind of didn't work out.
Yeah, because I went to the old show, the old podcast studio, which was your man cave at the time.
Right.
And I brought a guitar and like just, we didn't really have a plan. We were basically just hanging out, just seeing what each other could do. And it was cool because I think we needed to break that level of like we only know each other professionally.
And we needed to find that common ground.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So even though like our styles were on polar opposites at that point, not realizing that we would be able to merge all that later on, that was kind of like the stepping stone for us. A very tiny, minute pebble stepping stone, but it was there, right? That was the seed that was planted.
And walking into your man cave and being able to see all your cool collectibles and just like all the awesome art in there, I was like, all right, me and this dude could jive.
Yeah.
And that was, I had no idea what we were going to go on to do, but I had a good feeling about, making this genuine connection.
But the music thing always felt weird at first. And so we even brought in Blake Tozan on drums because a lot of y'all don't know, but Tozan's a beast drummer. And we brought in Curtis on bass, who's out in Vegas now. Shout out to Curtis.
That's true. We did
listen
jam
to the show he follows
at Tozan.
We did at Tozan's, and it was good.
I have that track still.
But at that time, Curtis was already leaving, so it was just kind of like a jam session.
Yeah.
And it just kind of never developed. Tozan was going through some personal things with his ex-wife. Kelly and I were trying to decide really what we were going to do next because we were kind of bored with everything else, as far as like what we're going to do as far as business or anything. And am I going to play music? Am I going to do this?
Get some fulfillment
so
somewhere.
Months had passed, and we never talked about it again. I wanted to play covers because I knew it would make some money.
Yeah.
Tyler was like, I don't really want to do covers unless they're awesome covers. And it's going to be hard to do because you got to find the right musicians for them. And I said, I understand. And also we talked about the fact that people are not committed like they used to be in the 90s, right, to bands in that scene.
Yeah.
So I come up to him one day, and I was like, I want to start a podcast. You want to? And he says, absolutely.
I was about that.
Like, didn't even hesitate. He was like, this is a good idea. I said, what does it take? And I literally gave the man $700 that night. I bought he had an older MacBook, and I bought that. He taught me how to edit in Logic. I bought Logic.
Which took, I'd say, 20 hours for you to like fully understand what
to be able
editing,
to just do basic,
what it
cut
is,
and all that.
where all the stuff is.
But that's basically at Best Buy. We started with our employee discounts, getting some Yeti mics.
Yeah.
Now that we've moved on to PreSonus, and we're set up with PreSonus, we're powered by PreSonus. We love it. But anybody starting out, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a Scarlett 2i2 and a couple of Yeti mics. I mean, up until this point, that's all you've ever heard.
I mean, season 1 and 2 is all that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we were able to do that because at that time, Hubert gave us accommodations. My first Yeti mic.
That's true.
Remember that Yeti Pro?
Yeah.
Super expensive mic. I got it for less than $100. So I was able to fit out the entire studio through my employee discount at Best Buy.
The more I think about how it all lined up, it just like that is one of those like when the universe just kind of lines up in the planetary systems, just have that beam of hope.
The best part about it too is that we had an idea of kind of what our content wanted to be, and what we went through our changes and our phases.
Yeah.
But one thing we were never concerned about was the music.
Oh no.
We knew from day one that we were going to be able to write our own background music. We're going to write our own intro. We're going to write everything we ever needed. So
I think that's what turned me on the first, like initially, I knew it'd be a solid show because of what you know and what I know. I never had to worry about what content would come out.
Right.
But I was most excited for the production side of it because I never got to experience that. And I knew as soon as we'd be doing this and releasing at least once a week, we would find that groove of being super efficient with, getting the systems down. And that's what excited me the most, honestly, is because the backing tracks, the production side of it, making network connections, and like the possibility of what podcasts can do, kind of like put all this stuff in a bucket for us that we've been practicing for like half our lives already.
Right.
And was able to put it on a different platform. And the DSR's always had a aspect of artistic a vision where everything's kind of just like this package that comes together. And over every season, almost every episode, really, it just kind of like adapted to the change that we saw it needed to be.
Right.
And the creativity has always been there, and then the culture part naturally was always there.
That's why I think I'm kind of aggravated, and I always have been, with Apple Podcasts, because every single one of our episodes, if you go to Spotify and you really look at the artwork and the episode is an all-inclusive thing. Like, they go hand in hand, but you can't. The people that are on iTunes,
they can't see it.
They can't see it, so they don't get what goes behind it. So,
and
to our
trust me,
Spotify listeners, and if you are listening on Apple iTunes on Apple Podcasts, please download Spotify. It's free. Go listen to us on Spotify and go look at the artwork. Tyler puts a lot of time into this artwork, and that was the first thing that made us feel like a legitimized podcast. Is Tyler walked in one day, hooked up the monitor, and said, "Check this out, I made this." And it was our skull, just on a static video, and he said, "This is going to play while we're doing our show until we understand that this is real."
And it's still playing now.
And it's still playing now. So
yep.
It's never changed, and it's stuck. And, dude, I'm grateful to you for going into this third season, because anybody can come and go through this, but we are not like Three Dog Night, to where like it's just the bassist now and a bunch of other people with them, the cover band. Yeah. You and I are the thread of this, man, and I couldn't have done it without you. So I appreciate you, and like I said, for the 5 years at Best Buy, I built kind of crazy relationships that I never thought I would have.
There's
right?
some family members
really
over there.
And till this day, I still talk to a lot of them daily. And when they see me, the way they light up, and I never thought I impacted anybody's life like that. It's the same thing when I was still working there and you weren't for the last year and a half, and you walked through the door, it's like everything stopped, but Tyler was there. You know what I'm saying?
It was weird.
Yeah.
It was weird.
And you wasn't used to that, because you're not used to people liking you. And the same with me.
I never gave it that attention.
So, yeah, I just want to give a shout out to my Best Buy family there. Guys, y'all are awesome, and I love each and every one of y'all, and y'all know who I'm talking about. And even the ones that are left, like Will Forshack, man, like I wrote that kid a letter of recommendation. Now he's got a big boy job. Seth, love you, dude. Like, you Stephen Hawking looking little bastard. I mean, but I miss a lot of you guys, but they understand, like, you can only be the morale for so long, and then sooner or later somebody has to be your morale.
And I think a big part of that too is like it gave us an opportunity to kind of mentor some people that just had so much potential but didn't have any guidance.
Right.
And I look at mentoring now, and it's like, man, am I really in a position to say, like, you should do this or you should do that? For someone, you are. Yes.
Well, the thing is like you can only talk on the experience that you have. You have. All right. So if you stay within those boundaries, that's fine, right? You don't ever want to try and mentor outside of those boundaries, because you're probably gonna have a slighted view on things. So. The thing that I did, the biggest thing I took away from Best Buy is never judge a book by its cover, because the same thing happened with me and you. And no
shit, man.
Thank God,
for
dude,
sure.
We read the first chapter, right? So
for sure, and we were stuck on that front cover for a little minute,
right? But yeah, that's how the rebellion got started.
Thank you, good purchase.
Call me.
Dave's Gaming Galaxy is the hottest spot in Houma to buy, sell, and trade retro gaming. Have some old video games or collectibles laying around that are just getting in the way? Then call Dave at Dave's Gaming Galaxy, 870-2378, or at davesgaminggalaxy@gmail.com. Dave's Gaming Galaxy will pay you top dollar for your used games, consoles, accessories, and collectibles. So remember, that's Dave's Gaming Galaxy at gmail.com and at 985-870-2378.
Call me.
Thank you for listening to Dank Swamp Rebellion. Check us out on dsrtalks.com.